don't want to talk about checker versus self background checks. I did approach the state of Colorado. You guys know I have an in with that. And I say this to anybody that is out there going, well, what's been proven yet? What's really going to happen with transparency? Okay, what's really going to happen? We had Prop 22. I shouldn't even do this. The ABC test or something along those lines that will not let you qualify to be an independent contractor. But in these terms of, so when they define us as independent contractors, I hate to say this, but background checks, that's an expense on us. Remember, we're our own businesses. And I know a lot of you don't like to admit that, but we are. We're our own businesses. So there are business expenses. So luckily you can write this off. I made a short last week about checker, and it kind of was like, what do you expect for $23? And that, I mean that. When I worked with ParaWorks, we were running checker backgrounds for ParaWorks people constantly for the catering apps. And I got to tell you that I was the one who had to call, like, Jimmy and David, nobody else on the Para team, nobody would touch that. They didn't want to deal with that crap. I was the one that called checker every time when we had an issue. And you wouldn't believe how many issues we have. And the support was worse than Doordash's. But then I got to this point of, I'm like, well, actually, what do I expect for 23? I can't feed my son and I from McDonald's for $23. You guys are doing a background check? Come on. And trust me, we had, out of all the people coming through, we had over 10% fail rates who should have passed those background checks that we had to fight for. Now, remember, these are thousands of people too that we were doing, multi-thousands of people. And around 10% of them got bad checks back. So my idea has been, since we are our own business, it is in their terms of service, at least Uber's and Doordash, that they want to do it themselves. They use checker and, they try and build checker up. I can tell you right now, checker is the cheapest background. I don't just mean they're the worst, which they are, but checker is the cheapest in the world. Checker is the cheapest way to do a background check. That's it. It is the cheapest. That's why they go with them. But what do you expect from the cheapest? So, of course, and I get why they do that. But, here's the thing. So I sent something over to our legislator. I'm like, hey, can we jam this into the next round? Because why can't we do our own background checks? Everybody could be allowed to choose, well, I don't want to pay for it. No, let Doordash do the background check. It could still be your choice. But here's the thing, with so many people being deactivated wrongfully everywhere, I would much rather pay $75 to $100. And those are the numbers, and I'm going to break them down right here. $75 to $100 per year to do my own background check, where they talk to you too. So you have the background check if there's an issue, because you're paying for yourself background check through a legitimate company, not checker, but a real company. They come back to you and go, hey, do you know what's this? And you go, oh, that's when I blah, blah, blah. And I moved, and they're like, oh, okay. So until they've got everything fixed for you, or at least address that, hey man, you didn't tell me you went to prison 1,500 times. Like, if that kind of thing comes up, that's on you, man. If you're trying to lie or something. But like, if you have a clean background check, okay, well, so you run it, and then they give you the results, and they say, these are ACE's results. Here you go. And it becomes like a token. Mike and I have talked about a token before, but it becomes like a token. Any app you want to onboard to during the year accepts that token, mainly because it's a real background check. So like Doordash, all these companies that know they're using the cheapest, worst background check system in the world, why wouldn't they take one that they already probably even looked into and said, whoa, we're not spending that much. We're not spending $100 on every driver multiple times a year. So they already know about these companies, the better ones. Why wouldn't they accept that? And here's my other challenge. So those would be people that for sure had a real background check and are cool. So here's how it works. $75 is a background check for the year from a company that we used to work with, that I really like. And that is everything except for rideshare. Any app, couriers, Walmart, shopping apps, this, that, the other, anything but TNC. If you're transporting people, we're going to talk about that in a sec, just real quick in a second. but $75 would buy you the year. You pay for it yourself. You can, and you can't get it back from the company, but you can write it off on your taxes. It's a business expense. But remember, if you're thinking, well, why would they let you do that? Well, they just saved $23. And if you get it put into high risk categories by Incognia on these apps, they might require 3-4 background checks on you in a year. Okay, well that's now $96 to the company. So why wouldn't they prefer that? Okay, we don't have to pay the 23, and you got the A+ background check, not the D- one that we do. Now, for rideshare drivers, some of you are not going to like me for this, but I've done it enough years. If you remember, Uber's claim to fame from 2009 until 2022 was no unaccompanied minors ever. In fact, if you got one, you always were paid $5 instantly to cancel that ride. I can't tell you the amount of times I was called to a high school and I'd say, let me see your ID. And I don't have one. And because some people at high school would be 18, but I'd say, let me see your ID. If they didn't have it, no, man, cancel. I'd get $5 immediately. They wanted me to cancel. Then they brought Uber Teen on, again, another illegal thing. So $100 would get you a rideshare background check, and here's where I don't think you guys will love this. It would include fingerprinting. Already, I sent that over to the Colorado lawmakers I work with, and they had and legal rideshare. But he's willing to get involved with this a little bit in the first initial letters and things. And he said that not only would he push that the TNC apps, rideshare apps, allow self-background checks, but he would say that because he understands what Checker's up to too. We've talked. He's been on the podcast. But he would push them to actually put a verified check next to drivers who used the $100 background check. But with all the crappy, weird things that people out there doing rideshare, with all the things that are happening to the drivers and passengers, and I'm not talking about even just minor stuff anymore. I mean, rapes and killings almost daily. 4 died, 5 died, 10 were raped. I mean, it's horrible. Those stats have gotten absolutely awful. But if you had a verified, it means you had a fingerprint and you had a real background check and you're doing rideshare. I know damn well I would rather look for a verified rider. There's all the different classes: Uber X, Uber Comfort, Uber blah, 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 SUV. Like, okay, why not Uber verified? And I hate to do things like this. Like I just said to Uber Eats and Doordash, you'd save $23 on background checks to let us do our own. They're probably going, sweet, dude. Why not do the verified? Uber could charge more for those rides. Would it go to the driver? I hope so, but we know probably not. But it might get them prioritized with the type of people who care about that thing, meaning the people who are not committing incidents.